Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of a Filmmaking Production Diary. I am your host, Miguel Ortega, and this is my co-host, Tran.
Hey everyone.
So we are documenting the making of a short film in Unreal Engine 5.1 and a lot of Maya, a lot of everything. Um, so we did this last year on another short film called The Voice in the Hollow. That went really well. It's been playing at a bunch of film festivals. It's online if you want to watch it. And yeah, what else, Tran?
I think that's that. Now we're working on the environments. So
Yeah, environments and getting the characters ready for shots. So Tran will start, and she'll show you guys some of the stuff she's been working on. This aesthetic that we've been trying to find, and then I'll show you some really boring rigging and mocap setup stuff that we've been doing as well.
okay. So last week I showed something different. And I spent maybe one or 2 days on this. So we're look, hey Alex. Oops.
Hey, the boss man is here.
Yeah. So I started this set, and this is speed tree, and I was just populating some plants, and all these roots up here were all scanned branches, and I think it's cool. But we started looking at like how this would affect some of the shots and some of the stuff that we want in the story, and the ceiling was just too high. And also the other thing that I find that I do a lot, which is really bad, is put too much work into areas that aren't seen. So we did this. I did this on a Ningyo. So in one of the sets, which is the kind of the biggest set, the Cella set.
We do see it. We specifically have shots.
Yeah, we have like one shot
Yeah.
that shows like maybe two shots, and a lot of the, if you look at like, let me step back here. Like if you look at a lot of architecture, and the Ningyo that we did was Victorian ish, there's a lot of work that's always put into the ceiling. So architecturally, the ceilings tend to be extremely ornate, and they look really beautiful. When that comes to like storytelling though, and when you're trying to tell, you're just worrying about the shots, you're not staring at the ceiling most of the time, because that's not how it would work. So I think too much time was put into there. Plus our aspect ratio was really wide. And then when it comes to framing and you have a ceiling that's high instead of wide, a lot of stuff gets cropped out. So I kind of didn't want to go down that route.
Asking you a question: was Epic Scan Collection? Is that we'll get into that. You'll see.
Wasn't fitting for you? Why you need weird?
Like why did we not just do everything with mega scans like we did on The Voice in the Hollow, which is way smarter? Well, you'll see. So remember this film, The Voice in the Hollow. The great thing about it was that because it was like a tribe, we were able to use all this natural assets and build everything out of primitive things that were in the Megascan library. So that it actually worked amazing for us.
Well, the branches here that you see laying out, they are all from Megascan. So they're just like low proxies that I'm bringing to SpeedTree. The leaves here are actually all from Megascan. So they're all Megascan stuff, actually.
It's just warping them so that they don't feel like Megascans.
Well, yeah. And then if you're doing ivy, they do have an ivy collection. But if you just use their plants, you're just kind of shoving them in, and they kind of don't lay out nicely. The other thing is because their scale is kind of a big factor, right? These guys are little, and if I just take a 3D asset plant from Megascans, they look great, but if I scale it up, it's probably going to be way too low quality compared to the character, because the characters are really small. So if we do a lot of shots with plants, we'll have to fix them up a little bit, just because the way that they've been built. But And again, it's still Megascan stuff at the end of the day. All their textures are Megascanned.
Yeah.
But I think that's really normal anyway. You do have to make some custom plants. And just because of the art direction and again, the scale and how big the characters are.
Yeah, even on Voice in the Hollow, if you really look at this stuff, nothing feels like mega scans.
But we use Megascans. Everything we're using is Megascans
The
too.
ground is like solid red, Superman red.
Yeah.
The
And we're
leaves
just
are Superman red.
we're just essentially just remixing it. But it's
Yeah.
original source from that. So anyway, that was what I had last time. And then Miguel and I went back. And let me just maybe open something else up, like an earlier version. Second. So we went back and then we talked about like, yeah, let's not do that again. Same mistake. Let's like, I need to learn from my own mistakes. So Miguel went and we talked about the scene and what we needed, right? So this is really rough block out. And this is like half the room. So we wanted to feel cylindrical. If it's cylindrical, it will be more modular. You just build a section and you can repeat it around. It should move more quickly. And the second thing that was pretty important was just the height of the ceiling, because we do have a character that just happens to walk on the ceiling, right?
It's Mayo.
Yeah, Mayo.
There's something wrong with him.
And he can walk in the ceiling.
He's
and
the only one that can walk up.
Yeah, and if your ceiling's all the way up here, like,
Yeah.
that completely destroys the shot. So it needs to be much lower. So I had like a rough idea. Okay, and then these are some of the other kids that might be in here. So, but just based on that, I started blocking out something different. Right. So here, kept the characters here. And then what I did was just kind of reshape this a little bit. I narrowed it a little because I don't want the ceiling to be so low. Actually, do you think I could achieve the same level of detail as models made with Blender instead of Maya? Yeah, of course. I think you could use anything to get it to look good.
You could use, at this point, you could use a $29 iPhone app to get.
Yeah, I've seen like really amazing sculpts come from like iPad apps.
Software doesn't really matter when you're doing stuff for yourself. It matters once you're working in a big production. But modeling in particular doesn't really matter. Like rigging matters, animation matters, because then you have to fit in a pipeline. But the truth is, for modeling, it's almost, we've got to the point with modeling like televisions, like where you go to Best Buy and every TV is good. There's not one TV that is like crappy compared to the other. They're all more than capable.
Yeah, if you understand principles of modeling, like you just get it, and then you understand like the technical stuff and topology, that knowledge transfers over to whatever program you're using. So
a lot of that does have to do with the fact, though, that you would want these programs to be, you kind of do wish that one program was way superior to the other, but it almost feels like modeling tech has kind of flatlined. It's like, yeah, okay, so the bevel tool works, this works now, this is a little easier, but really it's not like revolutionary leaps besides maybe what ZBrush did 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Modeling does need, I think in a way what Adobe Modeler is doing, and Code 3D, like the voxel stuff, I think there's something there that I've always thought the voxel stuff is going to be the next big thing, but I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a need for an update.
Yeah, to make things faster.
Yeah.
Anyway, if I come back here, so original shape that Miguel had this extra kind of space, I just kind of cut it off because, it's just really low, and I wanted wider windows. So all I did was just basically grab a sphere, kind of shape it, something like that. And what I do here is it's a cheap trick. This is really dense. Is I just make this mesh live. So I'll just hide You can kind of see those pieces here. Let me hide this here. Let's hide that. And let's pull this back up. So I'll make the surface live and I'll just start quad drawing over it. Right, so like if I want to block out some kind of window, and then I'll just make my first piece like that, and I'll just start instancing it. So this piece is just one polygon shape. And I'll come over here, set this to instance, like a -1 on X, so it's mirrored over. And then I'll kind of determine, because it's radial, how many times it's going to repeat or the angle. And I decided 45 degrees, right? So I'll do +45, -45 on that. So I have this really, really rough setup. And then I'll go back and start quad drawing some kind of shape. And I can see how it's responding. Like, do I want that gap? So maybe something like that. So it's really, really simple how I go about thinking about that.
You could already start to see how they all work with each other as a big pattern.
Yeah. Once I'm more blocked out, I don't even show that part. It's still there. It's just hidden visibility, and then I can really play around. Right. So you can do all kinds of stuff coming up with the designs. Radio designs are really fun. We didn't have that on the Ningyo so much. I want to take advantage of here. They're kind of easier in some ways because just of the pattern.
Well, it naturally looks complex.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And then I showed Miguel the parts that I hid. I don't know where they went. Right. And then let's see the next. Maybe it's this version where I started extruding them. Okay, here we are. So once I did that, and I just developed it more, and then I extruded these pieces. You can see they're really low, and the idea is to keep them really low so that they're very easy to manipulate and change. And I decided to have these pieces here, a second one, and kind of replicate around. So I have like a big section of that room now if you look down, right? And then we wanted to have more kind of details like swerves and then curves, and like not just have this be flat. And
very much like Art Nouveau.
Yeah.
Meets, like, again, a big influence on this is the Dark Crystal and like the Jim Henson movies like Labyrinth. And there's a certain design that they use on those that we're trying to bring into this.
Art Nouveau is like, I feel like the aesthetic is used a lot in fantasy. So, and it works, right? If you think about Dark Crystal, they're gelflings, they're not elves, but they kind of feel elegant in the same way. So Art Nouveau is definitely an inspiration in this, like the aesthetic. And it seems like it could be complicated, but it's not so bad. I think it's not so hard. So we wanted to have just more intricate stuff, and I don't really want to polymodel that because it's not free. So I just start off getting this basic shape because I can move extremely quick like this. And then once I have these shapes, let's jump over here. So I brought that in like this. And then the first thing I did was, let's jump over here, which is subdivide it really high. I'll just show you my steps. Let's just duplicate this. So I just divided it until it was pretty dense. And I don't want to actually sculpt with this topology because it's not very evenly distributed. There's a lot of stretching, and that makes the sculpting feel weird and pinch in sections that you don't want to pinch. So, and I know I'm going to retopologize it anyway. So the first thing I do is just dynamesh it. So I just hit Dynamesh, and I try to keep it lower. So that first round was like 2 million. I'm probably going around 1 million, where it's pretty still easy to manipulate. I don't want it too dense because I don't plan to really subdivide it. It just basically becomes sketch. Then I'll have something like this, and I just sculpt on it. And most of the brushes that I'm using, let's scale this up. Oops. I'm using Dam Standard and high polish for basically all of it. So it's pretty basic. And I'm just carving that in. So I just take my stroke, increase my lazy step, and I'll get something like that, right? And I just spend a little bit of time. I don't try to get it perfect because your sculpt is always going to wobble a little bit, and you can kind of see it here, right? So it looks good at some angles, but there's like some weird denty stuff over here, and that's fine because I just retopo that, and which doesn't take long for me either because the topology is not like a character topology. It just has to hold the shape.
Yeah, it just has to be sharp.
Yeah. So if I come back,
I mean, technically speaking, do you really even think the topology matters that much now that you could bring in a ridiculously high nanite mesh? And of course, it's more efficient to bring it in like this, but you could technically like chip little cracks into this and whatever, and then just bring in the super high res Dynamesh, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the point was just to get rid of the weird denty crap. So for me, when I'm in here, it's like, let's get the flow down. Let's not spend time making the surfaces perfect. So then I can sculpt really fast. Like if I just go try to get a final piece out of here, I'll probably just keep trying to fix it and get rid of these weird dents. And I don't really care. So since I don't care and I'm kind of not putting my best effort into it, it makes me work faster. And then that way let's just retopo it. And then I end up with the version I wanted it to be.
And it's got the much smoother, sharper, perfect lines.
Otherwise, I'd spend more time. I think I would end up spending more time in ZBrush and then have a mesh that's very dense. It would be more difficult to UV. This is much more easy to UV. It's just where I know, in my head, I know how much time I need to spend in ZBrush and go, okay, I've been spending too long. That's not good. So these were, not too long. And then this one here, you saw the original one, ends up looking like this. Right. And same, I did the windows the same way. So I just kind of drew these patterns and extruded it. This is not even sculpted.
You can see there's like a hive, beehive kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Which is definitely intentional to get that. They all live under a cedar tree.
Yeah.
So this is all underground, and then these are just like carvings inside of the.
So it's Art Nouveau, and we wanted the pattern to feel a little hive, like you said, hive-like, honeycomb-like, a little bit cellular.
Yeah.
Kind of look. So it's not purely Art Nouveau because it probably would have longer lines, but I try to keep some of the shape language with some long lines, and then also keeping the cellular type of shapes. So I don't know, I'm just making it as I go. And it's just figuring it out. And I go, oh, all right, that feels right. And then you go, Miguel, look, what do you think? And sometimes he's like, I don't know. What do you think? I didn't show you this part.
I think that this is so much better than the previous one.
Than the tree thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we just
put the whole thing on. Let's see it.
So that's that section. And again, you can see the flow. This side I left open, but this will be mirrored on the other side. So this is the entrance. So I did the same thing here, and you can kind of see like I tried to make this seamless, and you can see the scale of the characters. So all these holes here, the idea is these will be kind of like stained glass windows ish, something like it. Maybe we'll see through it, maybe we won't, but we want a lot of light to come in, and some color. So
in particular, because we know it's going to be really out of focus in the background, so we want a crazy shallow depth of field on this.
Yeah.
And that's going to look really pretty with highlights look really nice when they go out of focus, because you get a really nice bokeh effect.
Yeah. So a lot of this, like when we're doing this or coming up with the aesthetic, and I'm thinking a lot about lighting. When I first started modeling, I didn't think about lighting at all, and then that affected my work. And then the moment I thought about how is this going to light, it made my stuff better.
So someone is asking, are those foundation courses online? I'd like to build my skill before. You should call the school and ask them. They'd be able to help you out much better than.
Yeah, but there's also the Gnomon workshop too that has a lot of stuff that could help. I know it's like subscription. There's really good stuff. I even watch that all the time. Like, oh, there's a new thing. Let me watch it. What can I learn?
We even watch our own videos here.
Yeah, they're also super affordable. So
yeah,
I recommend that, checking that out. And then just because there's so many things available on the Gnomon workshop.
But call the school and talk to one of the counselors.
Definitely. The staff there is super friendly. Everyone's really nice. And then you can get more specific answers. But anyway, so this is what I have here. And, you know, I want to fill in these holes kind of the same way.
Let me just put this up so that's gnomonworkshop.com, and then admissions@gnomon.edu.
Yeah.
So the Gnomon workshop is going to have, I mean, at this point, it's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos and tutorials.
And I really recommend that because I look at that.
That's how I started. I started with
VHS
Gnomon workshop VHS tapes.
Yeah, before you even attended. Well, you attended Gnomon too.
Before I attended, I had a bunch of those VHS tapes.
That's funny.
Yeah, I bet you I still have them in Miami somewhere. I want to find them because it's so cool.
Yeah. But I highly recommend it. So based on personal experience. So the idea here, this will have some kind of door. I don't know. It's probably going to be left open. Maybe we'll see. But you know, in my mind, once these are kind of filled in with this level of detail, it's going to feel a little bit more hive-like. So we're trying to get like an Art Nouveau hive
and stained glass.
Stained glass. The one thing that you know, I'm really careful of is to make sure the holes don't look gross, because I don't know what's that fear where everyone probably knows where something has a lot of holes, right? And it just kind of feels disgusting. So it's very important for me these shapes don't look nasty. Like, and that happens to me. Like if
Triphobia. Triphobia.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm very like, I do not want that look. And that's why they're so designed. Because we could just put some kind of random cellular pattern and it would be done quicker, but it could feel disgusting. So
it's this here. Let me just share this real quick. I'll give it right back to you.
Yeah. Blah. Okay.
This freaking thing.
Yeah. So, right.
Oh my god.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay, you take it back.
Yeah. Thanks, Bobby. So that is something I'm very, very aware of. I do not want the holes to read like that. I want them to feel very elegant. And I'm just going to keep my eye on that the holes don't become like that. And they don't feel like that. They feel like stained glass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sport. Yeah. It's
super ew.
It's super ew. So I'm always like looking at, when it comes to design, like, where could this go wrong? And that was my first thought. This could go very, very wrong. So that's what I have so far. Normally, once I get in a groove, it moves pretty quickly. And then this first one is probably the most challenging one, but it established the aesthetic. And then from there,
So do you think
It
like
could
if
move
we have
faster.
light, if like when this is like a not frosted glass, when it's a stained glass, that if light travels through it, it would actually project the light patterns on the floor in Unreal? Or do you think that's something we'd have to fake?
I mean, I don't know because there's a couple of factors. Like I've looked at, first, I haven't tried to do that yet with an Unreal. The first project we did was super simple. It didn't, didn't have any kind of effect like that, right? All the materials. I have looked into that, and Unreal can fake the caustic effects pretty well, like basically caustic lighting, right? But a lot of the stuff that I was looking to is not path tracer, and we want to use path tracer. So
But wouldn't Path Tracer just make that even more realistic?
well, I don't know because actually caustic lighting is like where CG is kind of behind, right?
Well, it's behind because it's slow.
It's well, it never really cannot really physically accurately calculate like extremely complex caustics. The shapes it will do it, but the shapes look very weird. So I don't know if I can find like images.
Michelle is asking, do we do any concepts? We did for the characters, and we did some sketches for some of the environment stuff, but more on the voice and the hollow. The environment's Tran is completely just coming up with it as she goes,
Yeah, it's a little weird.
as only Tran can do that.
Like if we look at something like this, like I cannot get a ray tracer to physically ray trace this by shining a light through it. Most time you have to fake that effect through with a light. Like you can put a texture,
You can get it. You just have to crank up a bunch of settings.
but it won't produce pattern like this pretty. You'll get something, but it will be like the blobby version of this, right? Like this is really beautiful and complex. Like it feels real because it's a real photo. So with this type of stuff, I don't know if it's going to look like that, but Miguel and I could probably just photograph something and then
just project that.
yeah, just stick it in the light. This is actually really, really slow to calculate too. So glass, I think, is complicated, and we're not all the way there when it comes to refractive and subsurface scattering. And I don't mean in Unreal. I just think in 3D in general.
They're saying it reminds Bobby's saying it reminds him of Gaudi, the Spanish architect. Yeah, you know what? I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's not exactly, but like his windows are pretty interesting. Let me
share some stuff.
Like there is an organic mixed with
well, I've seen images of that building that you first had on with the
this
blue.
one.
Yeah, I've seen
this is the building that's still in construction, right? Isn't it? Like it's going to be done in like 100 years or some crazy thing.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, these cool. Windows are very interesting.
They're very, very interesting. They're very organic.
Yeah, there is a beehiveness to it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know. I didn't even have that in my reference. But now I will.
But I bet you the reference that you use referenced this guy because he is pretty original. You know, the thing about these kind of architects, I'm not diminishing their thing, but I almost feel like half of the thing that's impressive about architects like this is that they convince someone to give them the money to do it. Because it's not that someone couldn't design something that crazy. It's just like, wow, you actually convinced someone to give you the millions of dollars to do your crazy vision. That's amazing. So yeah. It's almost impressive on both fronts. Still amazing. I'm just saying you got to get some really rich guy to say yes to this, and that's almost as impressive. Look at that. That's really cool.
Oh, that's really neat. All the text looks garbled.
Look at that. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Are you streaming 1080p?
I should be.
Check your setting. Because all the text looks like
How's that?
that's much better. Because the text was completely not legible.
But like, look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That just looks like they just smashed Megascan stuff together.
We should do that too.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this? It's amazing.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, this is really good for us to look at. So
yeah, it's super good. As far as like things that I reference, when I'm doing this, I have we have a collection of like just like these Dover books. I'm sure you know everyone's kind of seen them at this point, and I just basically look at the something like this, and what it does for me is not so architectural, but it shows me the shape language, right? So then I kind of am picking up some of it, right? And there's a lot of long lines and these kind of S curves, and so I'm just looking at stuff like that, and then I'm just trying to go, well, it just we just need to add a few cellular details so it feels a little bit more honeycomb. But that's how I kind of come up with my shapes. It's just looking at other something like that where it's very Art Nouveau and where the shapes are very specific. It's inspired. I'm not saying it's very authentic or anything like that, but yeah, that's my process. Anyway, you want to share anything?
are you done? Can you do the full 360? I just want to see what it looks like when you.
Hold on. Let me full 360.
Like the whole set. You know how there's like a big piece missing?
Oh, you mean like this?
I just zoom out. Yeah, just like get that guy.
Should just 180. Okay. So top down.
And then go inside and then just like rotate.
I also have a longer lens on this.
Because we always use long lenses.
Yeah. So in my, it would be wider, but this gives us a better idea of what it's really going to look like.
I try to like use 50 to 80 millimeters on almost every shot.
Yeah.
But,
So
yeah.
So by default, like if we're looking at Maya, I think then you usually get 35, and so we'd see a lot more. But our cameras are probably not going to be like this at all.
The establishing shot, maybe, or not maybe, it definitely would be.
Yeah, but that's that's one shot. But yeah, I do want to do a couple things design wise. So these don't look very impressive because they're just a frame, and I want to get some organic kind of branches coming in, and again they're going to feel very large scale wise, just kind of coming up in here, not too busy though. And then along with that, a few cluster of leaves are large for its scale because these guys are small, right? And just maybe have that trickle in a couple places. Again, these gaps will be stained glass, and then the couches will all be Simulate and Marvelous, or the chairs.
And they'll all just be like, we actually were
They'll
looking
just be
at,
like,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No. We were looking at like what would some of this furniture look like. I actually do want to see what some of the furniture looks like in this architect's
Gaudi stuff.
Yeah. Let me see if there is any Gaudi furniture.
I mean, it would be cool to pick up some inspiration.
Yeah, but we were also looking at like space age stuff.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up.
It's also important that we bring. So this stuff is not cloth at all, and our character is made out of cloth. So it's also important that we bring the cloth, a lot more cloth back into this, so that it's feels right. I mean, for me, like one of the things that I'm thinking in my head is like, okay, we need to bring the cloth aesthetic. So maybe we have a few drapes or something like that. And then the couches, things that they've made are, this is more like a lecture classroom. It's 100% pure marvelous. We might have some rugs and things like that, right? But I feel like my instinct is for the floor to be very reflective because it will look very pretty. So, which is not a soft fabric material. We'll see.
Yeah, so this is some of the stuff that we were looking at. It feels like a culture clash, but
yeah, this is a weird aesthetic.
yeah, but
yeah, we were looking at stuff like that.
Stuff like this mixed with this Gaudi. But don't picture it made out of fiberglass like a lot of this stuff is, but made out of fabric. But those sort of like very simple shapes. So something like this. But again, none of it would be fiberglass. It would all be fabric, which a lot of this stuff does have a fabricy feel, like these things here.
Yeah.
But it's just more very simple, like these. I love these, how they opened up.
It's an unusual aesthetic.
Such a cool aesthetic. We should bring this back.
No, it's totally awesome. Like, that chair that you just picked, that you clicked on, was really cool.
Isn't that awesome? Like, it's just so much more fun than like modern furniture. Like, look, it's like a Tetris piece.
Yeah, I actually really like that. I actually want to do something like that. Like when you clicked on it, I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I like that it feels like.
Can you save that image?
It's very modular. Yeah. Let me just save this.
Yeah, so that image was kind of what I was picturing. Maybe less lobby-like because this is a classroom. So just breaking that up to feel more like a classroom.
But this stuff is just so odd. So expensive.
Well, I think our aesthetic is going to be it's going to be really odd.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So, well, hopefully everything will come together.
And then this is Gaudi's furniture. So his stuff is very not soft looking, but it does kind of feel.
That's like very hive-like.
That's what I was gonna say. It feels like an insect built it.
Yeah, without the fear of holes yet. in that one.
But look at this, like a chair.
That's a peephole, polished brass peephole. That's a very
That's very beautiful. But again, it like when you look at this, it feels like a beetle. Like look at this back part here. It feels like a beetle's head, and then the shell of a beetle. Like it feels like an insect.
It does, huh?
Yeah.
It's very organic. That's cool. But we'll have soft chairs.
Yeah.
And much more simplistic. And then that's all gonna somehow work in our scene.
Yeah.
In some way. Yeah.
All right. So I guess I could show some stuff. So let me see what the hell this is here. Okay. So let's see where this is. So this has been like what I've been focusing on is just getting these guys ready for Mocap because we need to start shooting our actual motion right away. And this is just, it's a pain in the ass. So working with the riggers to get this to all function. So right now, let's see where this guy's at. Everything is set up so you can see he's actually moving around and reacting to the motion capture correctly. And to get this right, you just have to make sure. So the clothing is all going to be simmed. So this is just, you can see it's deforming all messed up. But really, that's just for us to have something to see. But the reality is that this would all be simulated anyway. So it doesn't really matter that it looks messed up like that. But you can see everything is behaving correctly. And this is a little bit tricky because you're retargeting a skeleton that looks nothing like the current skeleton that you have. So you're retargeting this kind of movement. Sorry, not this kind of movement. This kind of skeletal structure to a skeletal structure that is completely different. Like, I mean, just look at his head. Like, what the hell is this thing? right? So it's a pain in the ass because you sometimes have to figure out, okay, how do I retarget this? This guy here has four, toes, weird duck toes, and this guy does not. So how do you transfer this data onto this? Which one of these fingers is going to drive uh, or be driven by this? Is it all going to get messed up? What controller gets assigned to what joint on this guy? So there is no instructions for it necessarily because you would have to have an instruction manual for every character that is custom made, which would obviously be impossible. So it's a lot of trial and error until you get it to work. The cool thing is we already did this on Voice in the Hollow, but the uncool thing is like I forgot a lot of this stuff already because it's one of those things that we probably did this about a year ago. We got it finally working, and then I'm not a rigger. I move on to all the other stuff. So by the time we come back up to this a year later, you're like, I had to go back and watch some of the old videos of Voice in the Hollow and watching myself teach myself how the hell I did this thing to begin with. Uh, huh?
Are you like, thank you, pass me?
Yeah, thank you, past me. And I was like, you're welcome, future me. So we're doing that all the time. So the face stuff is not set up here. But even so, the one thing that I feel really good about is this is movement that was done for Koa, no, for Allah as she's walking in the ceremony. And when I see it applied on this guy, it feels like it's meant for him. Like he looks like this poor, innocent little guy that's just kind of lost and looking up at the world. And I'm like, that's awesome that the mocap doesn't feel like it's for a different character. And every time we've added mocap, I think the character designs are really bringing the mocap and taking over the mocap and making it its own, which we're very happy about. So I'll show you guys how I retarget this in a second. But yeah, like look at that. That's just so freaking cute. My God,
It's cute.
it didn't look that cute when Allah was doing it.
No.
But all of a sudden you look at that and you're like, what a cute little guy.
Yeah.
So isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing that I've been doing is learning this tool called Shapes. I hate learning new tools, but this one is necessary. So Shapes is a tool that's basically created to basically set up not just blend shapes, but combination shapes. Um, this is the best way I could describe like how this works, right? So if I were to grab, let's say, a polyplane, right? And let's just pull something like this out. And we do something as simple as delete these guys here and let's just do that. And let me just add a few more edges to this just so we have a little bit more geometry. All right, so this is my amazing face, right? So this is a character that we did, right? And now we duplicate this and we're like, hey, you know what? We need to make a blend shape for this. So let's make this guy look like he's smiling, right? So let me just set the symmetry on, right? And okay, we'll make a blend shape of this guy smiling. Okay, very simple. He's smiling. We're happy with the way that looks, right? And maybe the eyes come up a little bit. So he's happy. All right.
It's a pretty good demo.
But that's the best way to show it because it's just simplified. And then you make another blend shape, and this one is him scared, right? So maybe he's frowning a little bit. So something like this. And we could pull this down like that, right?
Okay, yeah. You have a neutral, a happy, and a sad or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have that. So pretty simple stuff. You just grab this. Let's call this guy sad. We'll call this guy happy. And obviously you're going to do this on a much more complex model. In our case, our characters, Cotton Mayo, and the professor now. So we grab this guy, we grab this guy, we grab this guy, and we want to add them to a blend shape. So easy thing, you would just go to deform, blend shape, and you would add these guys in there, not as in between shapes. You would just do this and press create, right? You would immediately get these shapes, and now you can see you could run sad, easy, and then you could run happy. Pretty straightforward. The problem is what happens if you run both of them simultaneously,
Yeah.
right? In this case, it doesn't even look that bad, but it could look really bad when you run two shapes together.
You can end up with intersecting.
You could just get stuff that just completely goes to hell. It just goes completely crappy. So that's where you have to introduce what's called combination shapes. They basically say, hey, if I ever run this shape and this shape at the same time, trigger this third shape. Now you could see how this could become, and it kind of is endless, because if you have, in our case, 52 base shapes, which is not a lot. Just to put it in perspective, at Tippett, we used to do 650, if not more, shapes per character, right? So we're only doing 52, which is very basic. But you have 52 shapes. That means think about the amount of combinations that could be running simultaneously between 52 shapes. You have to make a combination shape if this shape and this shape get turned on at the same time, or if this shape here and this shape here gets turned on at the same time, or what if three shapes get turned on at the same time? Now you have to have a fourth shape. So it just becomes this endless freaking hole that you dig yourself into, but you have to do it for these characters. There's just no way around it. So shapes is a great tool for that. Setting up combination shapes in Maya is kind of horrible, because the way it wants you to do it is it wants you to select these two shapes, right click, and then go to add combination target. And it'll now have you sculpt live on this object. But that kind of sucks, because you're like, hey, what if I want to bring my model into ZBrush? What if I want to bring my model into Mudbox? Sculpt a shape in there so I could use the soft selection tools or whatever, and then bring it back in. It becomes much more difficult. And that's where shapes comes in and really fixes things, right? So let me just actually try to break this a little bit more, so just so we could see. So what if I would have gotten the sad face and done something like this? And so that's my sad face.
Maybe pull the corners of the mouth to be more pinched or something.
Yeah, I could do that. It's a good idea.
That I could see that really.
But remember, we don't, right now he just kind of looks like he's only sad. Yeah, let me pinch these here. That's, so pinch them on both is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see
And
both.
you can start seeing them break.
So you could see, oh my God, all the geometry is
Hold
busted
it for a second, because it can't. Can you hide the grid? Yeah, now you can see interpenetration. So imagine that on something three-dimensional. It's going to look really bad.
Yeah, so you see it here and you go, oh, it looks fine. But when you actually analyze it, if there was a texture on this guy,
it would tear. And if it wasn't a flat plane, it would be really terrible.
so let's just throw map on them. You could see right away, oh shit, it is a disaster.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where combination shapes come in. So the way you would have to do that is you would then grab this model here and duplicate it, right? And you'd have to come in here and essentially figure out, okay, how the hell do I fix this? So the best thing is using like the sculpt tools in here. And you can like set on reflection, so you can see. And I could set this to relax and just basically try to fix this up and be like, okay, this is not cool. Let's do this. Let's grab the smooth brush here and kind of fix this. And remember, you could really just say, hey, you know what? I wanted this to be happy frown. Maybe it's not just about fixing it, it's also about art directing. Like you could say, you know what? I want him to be sad, but he's still kind of smiling. So it should have a little bit more hesitation, maybe something like that. Maybe this doesn't go down as much because he's not fully sad or scared. So it's maybe more like that and whatever. So you can see you fixed all that stuff up. This is still the broken one here. And let's just go to our shape editor, right? So you can see they're broken right now. And this is our new fix. So let's call this fix. So the way you want to set this up is you call this sad underscore happy. So now you know that that is driven by those two shapes. So you want to name them accordingly. And the way shapes works is I could now come over here and go to shapes, load this mesh, and it'll automatically detect all the different blend shapes that you currently have. The greatest part about this plugin is that once you're done setting this up, you don't have to have shapes installed to even run it. What it's doing is it's basically hijacking the basic Maya blend shape system, which is outdated, to say the least, making a much better interface for it, making it much more user-friendly, and then bringing it all into the old crappy system. So you don't need a special tool to run it. You need a special tool if you want to keep editing it, of course, in that cool interface of theirs. But you don't, if you passed it on to someone else, you set it up, you were a rigger and you set this up and you passed it on to a client, they wouldn't need this plugin in order to open it. It would just feel like you set it up all beautifully in Maya. All right, so now that we have this, I could grab this combination shape, and just for the hell of it, I'm going to put this back at 0. And so I'll go back to my shapes. So I'm going to load that guy, and now I'm going to load the combination shape here. And all you would do is go to over here, add selection as default target, right? So now you have this guy here. So let's just move him out. Oh, so he's gone now. He's hidden from the viewport. So now all you have to do is say this guy, and this guy, create combination shape. Yes, right? And let's see what's going on here. I think I broke something. I probably broke it because I didn't set it up from the beginning in shape. So let me just do it in shapes to begin with. So let me just set this back to 0. And I'm just going to set it up in shapes to begin with, because I did it the way I normally would not do it.
You mean through the shape editor?
Yeah. So this is my broken one here. Okay. So I'm going to delete the history on this guy, and I'll just load the mesh again. So I'll select this guy, and this guy, add as default targets. So now they're all gone. So you can see if I select this guy, there he is. If I select this guy, there he is. If I select them both at once, they get broken. And if I get this guy, and add a combination shape, now when I run both of these guys here,
well, you're running sad and happy, right? Or you just supposed to run sad and happy? Are you running all three of them? Is that
I am running 3 of them, but they should trigger. Why is it acting weird? I got to figure out why it's not doing it. Let me see. It's probably something stupid I did. So that and that and that.
That's what I'm saying. Are you just supposed to run happy and sad, and then because you're running sad, happy?
Well, that's the whole point.
Okay.
That it becomes combination. Yeah, I got to figure out what the hell I did wrong. I did a bunch of things a way that I normally haven't done them before because I don't normally do the sculpting in here. So maybe I did something wrong, but I'll figure it out and I'll show it to you guys again. Again, I don't want this to be like a perfect tutorial because, yeah. But yeah, it's so weird. This is literally, I don't know, lately I've just been having like bad luck on streams. But that should trigger this shape, and that shape should
turn off the sad happy. Or
this one here.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the point is that is the point, that it triggers that third shape.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. They look like they're just multiplying, I guess. Yeah.
Well, let me just try doing it this way because this is the easiest thing I could do. So I could just grab this guy and delete it. So we got this guy. So I can now go in and go to, yeah, actually, I'm not going to figure it out right now. But okay, so I'll come back to this.
That's the basic idea.
Yeah, that's the basic idea. It should work. I just did something stupid and I'm not going to figure it out here. But okay, yeah. So that's one thing. And like I mentioned, I'm like literally, this is what I've been doing. So this is the other thing. So let me just open up this guy. Let me just open this guy. Okay. So this guy here, so you can see right now, so this is a big thing. Before you do any of the stuff that I'm about to show, the retargeting stuff, you want to make sure you run the timeline to make sure the rigger didn't forget to delete a keyframe, because this could be a gigantic disaster, and that is something that happened here. So, okay, so there we go. So you could see this is our rig delivered to us, and now we have to get this guy to be retargeted onto Mocap that you could bring in from Mixamo or from whatever you want. So first thing I'll do is I'll just come over here and I'm going to unhide my joints. So let's just go to show none, and then we'll just show our joints. And I'll select this guy and I'll go to create character definition. And you could see that you have this skeleton appearing over here. From what I understand, this is, what was it called? Motion Builder's interface that they just basically brought into Maya. So you now have to select your skeleton that looks nothing like this skeleton and say, hey, this bone here is the equivalent of this bone here. This bone here is the equivalent of this bone here. So you just want to make sure that you're always selecting the right thing. So what I usually do is I'll select it and then I'll come into the outliner just to make sure, okay, that is the right one. So I'll start with the collar, come over here, right click, assign selected bone. I don't have a secondary collarbone here, so I'm not going to select it, right? Come over here to the leg, come over to the leg, make sure you're selecting the right one.
It looks really complicated.
Well, it's what it is it's
So,
just so easy to have human error on this thing.
yeah.
So, for example, there, you want to make sure you select the FK bone, not the IK bone. So there's hip FK, right click, assign selected, okay? Left knee, right click, assign selected. Come over here. So this is your ankle. Come over here to the ankle, assign selected. Okay, now you come over here to the root, and now you have to figure out, wait a minute. He has a master joint and a placer joint, and they're both in the exact same position. So which one do you select? What is horrible about this is, again, this is a one-off character, so there's no one that you really could ask, like which one of these two is the right one. So you kind of have to test both of them and see which one works. Uh, the problem that happens is if you select the wrong one, sometimes you have to finish the entire process and everything could just kind of get messed up and then you have to start from zero. So I'm going to do joint master and I'm going to select this over here. Okay, now we have that. Our hips, come over here, go to your outliner, make sure you select it. And by the way, next week we'll start off, or next class we'll start off with the shapes thing. So if you just are looking at this for the first time, if you just jump into the next video, we'll cover that right away. Okay, so there we have our hips. Where the hell is it? So there's our root. So spine 1, right click. Now you have to go into the subspine, right here. And this is where it starts getting really confusing because you're on to spine 3, and you can see that it's really like the top of the chest, the scapula, but on the chart, you're still all the way down here on the spine because this is assuming that you have all these joints for the spine, but you don't. So if you come over here, you go, oh, that can't be it. It's got to be this one over here. You could completely corrupt your entire setup. So the natural thing is, oh, that's clearly neck 1. It's not. It's this one over here. How do you know this? Trial and error until it works. Again, because it's a skeleton by skeleton setup. It's freaking nightmarish. Left shoulder bind.
It's like trying to guess password, sort of.
It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
So
like here's some letters. Just
Yeah.
keep rearranging these letters until the password is correct.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a
So-
huge problem. So let's do the neck actually, and then I'll show you the problem. So we get to the neck. Okay, and come over here, select this. And now here we have another joint called neck 2, and then we have a joint called head. Now you would think, oh, the rotation of the head would be connected to the head joint. And it would be on almost every case except for this character because he has such a big head that we need the rotation to be where the neck joint is, or else the head always looks like it's looking off to the wrong place. So I now have to, from trial and error, realize I cannot connect the head joint to what they're calling the head joint. I need to connect the head joint to what they are calling the neck 2, or what I'm calling neck 2. So now that is connected, and you can see that we're getting this warning message, which I'll get to in a minute. Now we come over here and we select the fingers. This is pretty straightforward. The good thing is it's doing,
There's just 3 joints.
yeah, it's not too bad. But you can see there is extra bones here. So what the hell does that mean? It's this one here. And there's a big probability that something that I selected was in the wrong order, or it was this one, not
There's
that one.
There's a lot of human error.
Oh my God, a lot. So that's why
Even if you're doing this, like you've done this so many times.
Yeah, it's just too many. It's too many options that have to be done in a particular
Well, like
order.
when I look at your outline, I'm just looking at the joint list. It's like,
it's madness.
Yeah.
So this is why whenever I'm working on this and Tran starts talking to me, I'm like, I cannot listen to anything because my brain is just using all its strength. So, okay, so now we have this error message saying the right arm is not rotated. It wants a T-pose. So now you have to go to your NURBS curves, find the arm, rotate it. I think I know already that it's 58 degrees, and this guy's 58 degrees as well, of course. Okay, so let's see what the error. So we now have to go to the front. Let's make sure we selected the right joints. So I'm going to select this and see which one it's selected. That looks fine. I've selected the wrong joint. So there you can see. Okay, so that's that. This one here.
And you already did this. You already got this to work.
Yeah. So got to just keep doing this. And there you go. Now it's finally working on one side. So now you got to figure out what that value was. So it was like 55. I'll try to. Okay, so now come over here. Set this guy to 55. And now he's ready to go. Because I selected the wrong joints on the arm, and the reason why I selected the wrong joints is because you have the IK joints and the FK joints. So I got to make sure I selected the FK ones. So there they are. That's all good. Great. So now that I have this, I have to then create a custom controls. So the custom controls is basically it's asking you, oh, I actually didn't do the feet. So we have to come over here to the feet and figure that out as well. I'll do the feet later though, because it take a while. So now I have to come over here and say like, hey, so I now showed you where my weird rig, how it's going to transfer over to this skeleton. But now I'm going to show you what each one of these weird bones, or not weird bones, what all these weird controls that I have on my weird character are going to translate over to this original human skeleton. So, for example, the rotation of the arm is not controlled by rotating the arm. It's controlled by rotating this controller. So select that controller. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky because you have to find that controller down here. And you cannot select the curve directly. You have to select the group if there's a group that controller is under. So if you just select this, and do that, well, then it's not going to bring everything with it and everything with it. I mean, like all the children that will be following it. So if you just move this curve, then these guys won't follow along with it. It's a little confusing, but point is, I got to find that controller. So it's this guy here. Select this group that curve is in. Right click, assign selected. That one does not mirror over to the other side. So you have to do both sides. Click on this guy. Make sure you select the group. Select that guy. There was no groups in the voice in the hollow. So for the curve, so it's a completely different selection of joints and groups and whatever. So the only way to get this right is just an insane amount of trial and error until it works.
Because every rig is different.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a humongous chance that when I run this for the first time right now, it's not going to work. But it's basically that's it. Now it's just a matter of getting it.
And the chance is just you selected the wrong joint.
Selected the wrong joint or selected not the curve, but the group, or the group and not the curve. It's fun times for sure. But that's the stuff that I have to figure out. So let's do that. So I'm not going to do the feet because feet are just a pain in the ass, and it's basically the same thing. So this guy here, what is the hips? So here we will check, and if I'm not mistaken, it was this guy here. Then we go into our controls here. Fun times.
That's a lot of trial and error.
It's a lot of trial and error.
Like a lot.
And it's one of those things that
but I can see, like, if you know, if you scale up and you have a big company, the rigs have to be built a certain way.
Yeah, you want to build a certain way so that
they're all consistent.
Yeah, 100%.
In order to make this process easier.
So the head, this is kind of weird because I just said, hey, we're not using the head joint to drive the rotation. However, I want the controller that was originally built to drive the head joint to now control the head. So it's just all kinds of weird stuff. So let's find that controller. It's this guy here. Okay, and that should be everything. Oh, fingers. Okay, so this one's a lot of fun. So you come over here and you realize, you're like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? This is way more fingers than I have on my thing, right? So now you have to figure out which one of these is the right one. I'm not going to get into this. I know it's this one, and this one, but let's just start seeing what this looks like. So now what I have to do is I have to bring in Mocap that I already have.
So you create a reference.
Create a reference. There it is. And now I could just say connect it to that one. And I could start seeing what it looks like when it moves. So you can see right away something is off with the arms, right? So now you have to go back in and figure out what the hell happened, right? The thing that sucks is this.
The arms are really funny.
That sometimes you did nothing wrong and you'll spend all this time. Wait, let me rephrase that. You did do something wrong, but you fixed it. Now there's no way of fixing it. You have to start with a clean scene. And that's where it becomes super grueling because you're like, what the hell did I do? Everything looks correct and everything is correct, but it corrupted somehow and you have to start from zero.
Oh, you mean like the thing itself corrupted?
Yeah, because I like, you know how I selected the wrong joint initially for the arms?
Yeah.
That's definitely what this is. So even though I've now gone in and fixed it, there's a big probability that I won't be able to recover from it. Even though if I come over here and I select this joint, it is the right joint here. So that is correct. This is correct. That is correct. Those are all correct.
Well, it kind of makes sense because sometimes like things like lights break in Maya, right? Like light is simple, it's just broken, it's not working.
Yeah.
And the only no matter how much you change the setting, it just broke.
Yeah.
And you just have to remake the light. And it's not just Maya, it's just 3D. So same thing happens. Like I notice, let's say I'm doing some material work, I create a node, and the node is kind of doing something complex with the textures. That node breaks, and then it combines the textures all jacked up. And if you reset the settings, it still is broken. It just has to be deleted and recreated. But in your case, redoing the steps is really grueling.
It's super grueling.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's just see what it could be. Let's see if we can fix it somehow. So I know it's the arms, obviously. So it's this here. So few things that I'll do. Number one, I'll select this and I'm going to put on map translation. That sometimes is the answer. So I'll click on this. Let's see. So that's not it. Go back to this. Let's select this again. Let's find the controller that it is using. So I'm going to try connecting it directly to the curve. Let's come back over here. And it fixed it. So that one does not want to be connected to the group. It wants to be connected directly to the curve.
But the other ones want to be.
But the other ones want to be, yeah.
Yeah. And ignore the cloth because that will get simulated.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're just looking to see if the main body underneath is deforming well. And if that is, then it's fine.
So once you get it all correct, let's take a look at it. So it's basically all working all right. The thing that it doesn't have are the hands and the feet, just because it takes a while to set that up. But let's just take a look at this. So this is him all working with the hands and the feet. Same exact process. At least we debugged it and we figured out why it wasn't working. So you can see, come over here. I'm going to set my character and then load up the mocap. And you can see that the hands and everything are working great. Some of the things that are really kick-ass here, I can come over here, and if I select some of my attributes here, there are certain things that are really cool. So let's see. Let's see. Okay. There it is. So you can see you got a lot of settings here, but this is basically how it's retargeting. And you can see that you have certain settings like the mass center compensation. So you could see I could literally control his mass as he touches down. And you could see it's responding. Look at his feet, his toes, everything. So you could make him heavier or you could make him lighter on his feet. And you can see as he walks now.
Make it heavier.
I want him to be heavier.
He's like, That's pretty.
He's got to take a crap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though.
But you have all this control. Neck motion reduction. So you have all these controllers, and you could control every different aspect of this. So you could say, hey, I want the foot contact to have more stiffness. I don't notice much difference on this. You could do certain things like the foot contact type and how it responds when it touches the floor. So there's like sticky, and spread. I've been doing tests to see. I don't notice like a dramatic difference.
He doesn't really have like a normal foot. He's got like I don't know, a mitten foot.
Yeah. But there you go. So you can see the feet, the hands are all connected. So what I do want to do now, which I didn't do on the Voice in the Hollow, is go in here and start setting limits on the fingers. The fingers were one of the biggest nightmares for us on Voice in the Hollow. So you could go in here and adjust all these settings. I didn't touch these at all in the Voice in the Hollow.
Yeah.
So it's cool that we actually do.
So now you can limit.
Now we can put more limits and stuff like that.
Because the fingers were like sometimes broken. And
they were always broken. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we had these Mocap gloves that were too big on Caitlin, and the fingers were all kind of floppy. The new glove that came out like a month after we bought ours.
Oh, so shitty.
Yeah, because if you buy something and they know they're going to release them, they should just let you know. But the new one, the glove is basically cut off, and then you just connect the tip to the tip of your finger.
Oh.
Like a little socket.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the length of your fingers are. The gloves are so
bulky, like that you can, the actress couldn't really do that much because it was just too thick.
Yeah. But there you go. So we retarget it. He's working great. And the cool thing about this is once you have this set up, it becomes extremely simple. Oh, here's a big thing. So you want to swap out the animation. You're like, oh, I just want to see what else something looks like. You always have to go back and set it to stance first, which is basically this, like T-pose. Then you would go into your reference and let's go to a reference editor, and we can replace it. If you don't do that and he's mid-posed, your file will get corrupted. And then you have to
restart everything.
So let's go to shots. I'm going to find like a chase shot.
You can see his comment here. It's great that you're demoing this workflow. I always assumed that rigs/mocap was more plug and play. Glad I know what to look out for.
No, it's far from.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Here's a nice message. Hi, again, thanks for amazing work you two doing and sharing. Well, thank you for typing that in the chat and following along.
So.
Oh, I remember that scene. I did not enjoy this scene.
So let's see where he's at. And there you go. You can see he's doing the exact same thing as her. So you can do Voice in the Hollow Redux done entirely with these little guys.
Just swap the characters out.
Yeah, you have to reposition it. But there you go. He is, let's create a new camera. You see what I mean? He looks like a sad little guy, even when it's
it's the same type of
exact same animation. Like you look at him and he looks so sad here, and then when you look at this one over here,
they just feel very different.
Just completely different.
Yeah.
It's the exact same pose, exact same character. Well, not same character, exact same pose, exact same
Well, like,
performance, right?
yeah. Well, those characters had really long limbs, and they're very thin, and caught. Well, everyone is like more round.
He's just a
with-
big little ball.
Yeah, and everyone has short legs. Their arms are kind of long, but their bodies are all like balls. They're just round with big old heads.
But there you go. So he's getting ready to be set up. So all right, so that's that thing. The next thing I've been working on is getting this all working here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. We will be able to get things in the shot soon. Oh,
Yeah.
that's texture loading. Not
Yeah.
loading, actually.
It's not loading. It's the normal map. Okay. So you can see all his blend shapes are now plugged in and ready to go. So you can start seeing how his eyes move like gecko eyes. So obviously I can't record myself having each eye look a different way. I wish I could, but he will have that. And
Yeah, he's missing his teeth and his eyeballs. Just so everyone knows. But I guess it doesn't really matter because it's not like, yeah, that's
it
like
makes
human.
me wonder if he
without
actually
teeth.
even needs eyeballs.
I think so. I think it's gonna be really weird without it. Like everyone else has eyeballs.
You can see his inside is just like a Muppet. So very simple little guy. But
Yeah.
there you go. The shapes are all set up. So if you look at this, you could see it's now the 52 basic shapes, which is this right here. And then you have all of these here are combination shapes. So you can see jaw open, mouth lower down, right mouth upper, up, right. And all of these ran together.
How many shapes total is there?
I don't even know. It's hundreds. But you can see at any point, multiple shapes are being triggered just a little bit at a time.
I love it when he closes his eyes. It's like that blink is really funny. That's cool. That's really cute.
Yeah, he's so cool. So this is our little guy. This is Mayo.
Yeah. With his cape.
He's kind of like the princess of the story in a way. So a big thing for us was that he has to be able to say the word mayo. He only speaks 2 words at a time. Mayo is always the first word in his sentence. So you could see this test was us saying the word mayo. So if I play it instead of scrolling, you could see lip sync read. You can see it says mayo.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
cool.
that's what I've been setting up. So all of this stuff here is inside of our shapes. So all of this stuff is in here. So you can see our core shapes, our combination shapes are all the blue ones. These are combination shapes as well. So I should give them a name. I mean a color, sorry. Give them a color. These are our base shapes. So this is, you should get a color as well. So what I was doing is I was labeling them as checked, just because I knew that they were things I've tested. But yeah, but anyway, that's it. So that's the progress this week. If you're in France, next week we're going to be in Annecy. So both of us are going to be in a panel called Short But Epic. So that'll be about epics.
I'm also in the panel on
Yeah,
top
I'll
of
get
it, I
into
think.
that one.
Yeah.
So this will be about just using Unreal Engine in animated shorts. So a bunch of cool guys and girls that are going to be there. And then Tran is doing this one, which is cool. The art of finding your dream job from student or professional in the animation industry. So that's pretty cool. And that will just be Tran and some other people.
Look at that. But it's missing the Gnomon logo.
Yeah.
That is a Gnomon student work.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. So
yeah. So we'll be showing Alina's work. It's fantastic. And she learned at Gnomon. So
yeah, she graduated. She's doing really well.
She's at Jim Henson right now. So
yeah, she's doing so awesome, especially just graduating, getting work right away at a really awesome place.
Yeah, I mean, literally at the place that we're like inspired by to do this project. So
it's really cool.
Yeah. So some awesome other teachers there, and yeah. So check that out, and I think they're going to put a stream of this, but if not, if you're in France, you should go to Annecy. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks everybody for coming. Let's see. Yeah. Thank you guys, Bobby.
Thank you.
Jojo. Yeah, so thank you guys. And check out Alina's work. You can see the link to her ArtStation account. And yeah, that's it, guys. So thank you so much. Make sure you guys follow us on YouTube. We've been trying to push our channel a little bit more. Let me see what the hell it is. So if you go on our YouTube, you can check us out at Half Empty Studios, and we post our films there. We don't really post a lot. All the stuff we post is on the Gnomon channel, but we still appreciate any subscribers and views on there. So, and we have some big news to announce about other festivals that we got accepted into, which are really nice festivals. We can't announce that yet, but we'll get into that later. But anyway, thank you guys. Check out this page. And we will talk to you guys later. So let me close up on that. And I'll show the shapes thing next class, next stream. Okay. So thank you and bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.